Hi, this is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm here today to talk about our Stamparatus tool. It is our Stampin' Up's version of a stamp placement tool. It allows people who are like me, a little bit of a perfectionist, to be a little bit OCD, but it allows us to re-ink exactly in the same spot over again, which allows us to get a deeper, darker image. Say we're stamping in a black and it's not black enough for us. Stamping again exactly in the same spot will darken it. Maybe some of us don't get enough ink on the stamp the first time and we stamp it and there's pieces missing. The Stamparatus allows you to stamp again exactly in the same spot and darken it and fill in the pieces that you missed. It also allows us to stamp around in a circle, which is creating a wreath. This is done using a template, and today we're going to stamp one of those cards and I'm going to show you how to create the template. So thanks for joining me and let's get started. So here's the desk space and here's our Stamparatus. This is our fabulous tool. It actually comes with two plates and they are removable. And so the plates hinge back and forth, but they come out so that you can not only flip it over and use both sides, so you can have one stamp on this side and one stamp on this side, but you can also move it down the hinge and stamp in a series of evenly placed images. Today, like I said, we're going to be creating a wreath card, and I'm going to do that with a small piece of white Whisper white cardstock. This particular template I created using our square frames. These are our square framelets. Let's see, it's not that size, it's one bigger, which I had out. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my square template and I'm going to bring in my Big Shot. And I'm going to just cut out a square from a scrap of Whisper white cardstock. As I stated before, my template was made using this square framelit, so this piece will fit exactly in the hole. Oops. And this will allow us to create our wreath. I'm going to start out with a small flower. And I guess I'm going to put this in here. And this is done with two pieces of cardstock because it makes it a little bit thicker and allows me to have more of a ridge to press it against, so that I make sure I've got good contact and it stays in place. Here I'm using Flirty Flamingo. So I'm going to stamp my first color and then I'm going to rotate it just like that, and I'm going to come in with my second color. Ooh. This is where our Stampin' spots come in handy. I realize we don't sell them full of ink anymore, but you can use your re-inkers and fill our blank ones and get exactly the colors that you need. And they work wonderful for inking up smaller stamps and not getting ink on the plate. Okay, we're going to turn this one. This time I'm using Lovely Lipstick. I'm going to turn it one. Calypso Coral. And you could, of course, come up with your own selection of rainbow colors. I was running a little bit behind today and quickly grabbed what I thought kind of blended together. Anybody out there watching me today? This is kind of my take two. I started on one that was horrible and chose to delete and start over. Apologize for that. I'm a little bit distracted. I've got a craft show coming up soon and I am way far behind. And then I also, I'm very excited but a little overwhelmed. I got someone with a store is going to be purchasing some of my cards to sell them in her store. So that's fairly exciting. But she wants 100 of them. So I will be very busy stamping. So here we have Daffodil Delight. Then again, we're going to turn it one more time and come in with Highland Heather. And this is our chamois. This is wonderful for cleaning off stamps. Obviously, when something's on the Stamparatus, you can't use our Stampin scrub, and so the chamois allows you to bring the cleaner to your stamp. And the last color is going to be Gorgeous Grape. So there we have it. We have a perfectly formed wreath. They're all evenly placed around and create a circle. So this could easily be layered over the top of, you know, say one of our scalloped squares or another even square, and then placed on the front of a card. It would be very pretty. Oh, another thing, if you wanted to, this is something I should mention to you, if you wanted to be able to emboss in various colors and you don't have all the colors that you need of the embossing powder, this is something you could do, is you could go ahead and stamp in whatever color that you're using. And this doesn't have to be in a wreath. This could be anything that you're stamping. If you want to make it embossed, you stamp first on the Stamparatus in your color. And as I had said before, it allows you to stamp in exactly the same place. And this is why it would be great for embossing, because you could come in with your Versamark after the fact and you could just ink up the stamp, stamp it directly onto your paper. Then you would come in with your clear embossing powder and your heat tool. Clear, where's clear? There it is. Sorry, that shouldn't have taken me so long to find. But you would just dump your clear embossing powder over it. And I did that over a small piece of folded paper so that I can funnel it right back into the container. So let's set that aside. There we go. So I just did one flower to kind of show you how, see how now that one is shiny and embossed, and it looks like it's embossed in purple or Gorgeous Grape. No, it's Highland Heather, sorry. This one's Gorgeous Grape, this is Highland Heather. But anyway, that's a really easy way to stamp in, emboss in color. Sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked there. But let's go ahead and get started on making this template. As I said, this is 2 pieces of paper, so what I did is I took 2 pieces of 6x6 cardstock and I glued them together. And I just used some liquid glue. And again, this just makes it more sturdy and gives us that little lip that we can butt up against to make sure that we are where we need to be within the Stamparatus. So I'm going to glue the two of them just directly one on top of the other. And this is our Tombow liquid, multi-purpose liquid glue. And it dries really quickly and has a wonderful stick power to it. So there we have our 2 pieces of cardstock, and then I'm going to bring in the first one I initially did. Let's see. I did by putting up into the measuring, or measured it. This is a piece of our grid paper that I cut. This paper is 6 by 6. So then I would take the square frame and I would cut this out by placing the points on the 3. See, there's the 3 right there. So I would come across that line. And it could actually even be this way, if we pinned it together. The idea is that you want to be able to get it on the 3 mark here and the 3 mark here. And so this gives us one of the cuts. And then we would spin it, and then we would make sure that it was evenly placed. Again, coming out to the same distance, making the 3 in the middle. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares this way and 6 squares this way. And then cutting that one. So you can see, let's put this back in here. You could also use a ruler. That might make it a little easier for you. Or you could come in and you could lay the ruler across at the 3 mark and make sure you had your, see, I got the 3 up here and the 3 down here, and I'm making sure that my framelit is squared right in the middle. And then I could put a little piece of washi tape to hold that in place. Bring in my big shot once again. Sorry, I did part of that. Okay, we're going to make sure we're on the 3 this way, which I am, but we also want to be on the 3 this way, so it actually needs to come down a tad. We're going to make sure it's on the 3 this way and on the 3 this way. Yep, and then, like I said, washi tape. And we bring in the big shot. And we'll run it through. I get for using non-Stampin' Up! Washi tape, huh? Anyway, the second one we're going to go square on. And so I want to make sure that once again I am centered, even number of squares over on each side. And up and down. back in. So now we have our template. So that was fairly simple, but if you're thinking it wasn't simple, you're still a little bit confused and you want an easier way to do this, I have that as well. I took a piece of 6x6 paper, so I just cut this scrap paper, and it could be any paper, it could be, you know, plain old typewriter paper or whatever. But what I did was I took a 6x6 square, and then I wanted to find the centers, and so I folded it diagonally, both directions, and then I folded it in half, both directions. And then I went through, and so you could see this on my video a little better, I just used a pen and a ruler and I drew where the lines fell. Then what you would do is you would take your framelit and you would lay it over. And again, you're just kind of counting squares. You're saying this is, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's even that way, and we're even this way. So then you would put your washi tape on this. And this doesn't involve any rulers, any measuring, nothing. It's very simple. So we can actually even leave it right here on this grid paper. Making it very simple, because since it's scrap paper, we don't care if it gets cut up. So then I would bring in my big shot again, and I would run it through, and then I would spin it and again align my points up with these and cut it the second time. If you want a slightly larger, like on this one, I wanted a bigger square. So I have a 4x4 square here. And so I want this to be cut out. And so I took my 4x4 square and I scored it or drew a pencil line at the 2-inch mark, because 2-inch is halfway through 4. So if this was a 6-inch square, you would cut it at 3. If it was a 5-inch, it'd be at 2.5. But basically, we're just finding the centers. And again, because this was 4-inch, I went over to 2, and then I just ran a pencil down the middle of my trimmer to mark where I wanted that. Then I could place this on top of the grid paper, and again, now I'm just going to align, no measuring, no rulers. I'm just taking and butting up the corners to the diagonals and this line to the straight lines. Keep misplacing my washi tape. So now this time, because this won't run through the big shot since I don't have a die for this, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be laying this within my trimmer, and I'm going to find where that lays right in there. And then I'm going to take, let's go this way. I'm going to find out where it goes in the middle of my track, and then I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to set it down at the beginning, and then I'm going to drag it down to the bottom, and then I will spin, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure it's in the middle. I'm going to set it at the beginning and score to the end, spin it one more time. Make sure it's in the middle of the track. Spin it one last time, middle of the track. I'm going to lift up and then place it down on my 1-inch mark and then up. So now I have my first, oh, and I forgot to glue these together. Now I have my first square cut out. Now the way I did it, it didn't exactly cut all the way through, but that's fine. I can come back in with my paper snips and just snip off the ends. I'd rather do that than cut too far and not be in the right spot. So that will be my first one. If I had glued these together first, we would have been better off. So I'm just going back and recutting the second one. I'm just a mess today. I apologize for that. But I hope it makes you feel better, and that, you know, like I said, nobody's perfect, and maybe it's good for you to see that even those of us demonstrators get little hiccups once in a while, but we need not get too stressed about it, because it's still all fun. And the end results are definitely worth it. So there is our first one and our second one. And now I'm just going to glue the two of them together. Oh, here it is. See, this is the original one I did. And as you can see, what I did here is I scored directly on the plate. And because this was a 6-inch template, and I wanted a 4-inch square, I went around and scored at every inch. And then I went diagonally, and I put it right at, with the point over here to the 2 1/4, and scored. I'll come to this side, and I'm laying the 2 1/4 mark. Making sure that I'm even. You know, or you could just lay this over it. And then this would tell you where we're going to cut. I think this time I will just mark it. And I've looked at YouTube quite a bit, and there are lots of different little templates and lots of ways to do this. I'm just showing you 2 of the ways it can be done, using framelits, not using framelits, using a ruler, not using a ruler. And you find what works for you. And then once you have one made, you can use that as the template for cutting all your other ones. So see, I'm just coming in now and I'm cutting on these lines. So there would be my template. As you can see, I did this one and it's only one, and it's a little bit flimsy. I think I like the idea of gluing 2 of them together and making it thicker. But it would work the same way. You would just take your Stamparatus, and this time I'm going to not be using this. There we go. And here's my 4-inch square. Boy, I've made a mess today. And because I'm using a red rubber this time, I'm coming in without the foam mat underneath. Positioning it where I want it, picking it up with the plate, and then I would just ink as we did the first one. And so that would come in with your first color, stamp, and then rotate. And see, this time I can use a little bit larger flower, and you will know kind of as you play around with it what size you need your circle to be. So that if you want them to overlap or you don't want them to overlap, you want them to barely touch, you don't want them to touch. Here we go. So that's, you know, 2. Let's come in with our third color, lovely lipstick. So we have Flirty Flamingo, Melon Mambo, and now Lovely Lipstick. Calypso Coral. Grapefruit Grove. And again, you could use whatever colors that you wanted to use. You know, maybe even the same color all the way around. Say you were doing a wreath for Christmas. You might want to do them all in a shaded spruce or a garden green. And you could have a Christmas wreath. Turn this one more time. Highland Heather. And then a Gorgeous Grape. And so there you have it. Now you have a wreath of a little bit larger flower as opposed to the small flower. So I hope you found this useful. I do have one more little trick to show you. One of the things you can do with the Stamparatus as well is if you have issues with your Big Shot, if say you don't have the magnetic plate and you would like to cut out an image, say of the witch. This is from our Cauldron Bubble stamp set, and you wanted to be able to stamp the witch and cut it out, but your framelit is moving around and it's not quite lining up and you're a little bit frustrated with it. We can do this in reverse. We can take and cut out the witch ahead of time. So what I did here is I just cut the witch out of a piece of black paper, and I'm going to set this in here. So this is the witch template, and here is one I cut out of white paper. So this is what I want to stamp onto. I want this piece of paper to fit into that hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our stamp, which I have right here, and again this is red rubber, so I'm not using our black mat, and I'm taking this stamp and I'm lining it up. Now you can see it won't move because once I get it into the cutout piece, the part that stamps, fits squarely in there. So now I can take and place my witch inside the hole. Let's ink up with some basic black, or this is Memento black actually. And there you have it. She's stamped right into her little cutout image, and she's already die cut. So I hope you found that useful as well. That's you know, one of those things, if you're going to be making bunches and bunches of these, you can cut them all out in white and then just place them in the hole. Come in with your ink and then stamp and move on to the next one. So there you have it. This is our Stamparatus. You know, again, like I said, I find it very useful. Say I was coming in and I was stamping something, pretend this was in here square, and say I came across and I did a bad job and I only inked, say, half of it. See how she's missing little pieces? Because it's going to stamp in exactly the same spot. I can come back in, ink her again, fold this over, and it stamps right exactly in the same spot. See, I've still got a little piece of her dress missing. We'll come in here and we'll do this. And there she is. She's all of it there. So again, you know, if you have issues with stamping, or, you know, even if you don't, if you just want to be a little more exact and you want things to line up perfectly, or you want to create things in mass, you know, like I said, I'm going to be doing some cards for a store, and in order to make them all the same, what I will do is use the Stamparatus, and then I can set up an assembly line and I can just get going with them. So that's our Stamparatus. And if you need to get one and you don't have a demonstrator, I'd be happy to help you out. Or if you're one of my customers, you know, feel free to go over to queenbeecreations.net or contact me at lisa@queenbeecreations.net, and I will get back to you. I'd love to help you in any way that I can. As with anything that Stampin' Up! Sells, if you order something and you're not quite sure how it works, or you're having some issues with it, or, you know, it's not stamping perfectly for you, Stampin' Up! Has a fantastic policy where they make sure that you are happy with what you have. That if, you know, say this wasn't stamping exactly the way we wanted it to, there may be a flaw in the stamp. And if there is a flaw in the stamp, Stampin' Up! Will stand behind their work and they will send you a new one. Not that we're going to take advantage of that, but it's just a guarantee in knowing that Stampin' Up! Stands behind its work, that what they sell you is going to be of good quality and it will work well for you and it will last for a long time. So if you need any training or just want to talk over some things, definitely give me a call. You can call me on my phone. That number's on my website as well. Send me an email, an IM, like me on Facebook. I am all over the place and ready to help. So again, thank you for joining me, and I hope that you have a Stamparatus and you can put it to good use. Thanks so much. Bye.